The basis of competition is going to shift away from product superiority and price to privilege, insights, and experience. There's going to be a big pivot away from building physical relationships to now digital relationships with your consumer. We also think from a global perspective, there's going to be an era of reversal where intellectual property and latest practices are going to move from the eastern part of the world to the western part of the world. Ecosystems will definitely take root and grow massively and very rapidly. And from a traditional retail standpoint, several assumptions will need to be challenged. For example, how do you reimagine the role of store? How should you leverage your assets in a B2B context versus just in a B2C context? The days of long-range planning are over. We'll have to get used to much shorter horizons when it comes to planning. What comes with those short planning horizons will be nimbleness when it comes to pretty severe and dramatic resource reallocation. We think retailers will have to reallocate resources to the tune of 30 to 40% over the next 3 to 5 years. And maybe lastly, to embrace the fact that growth is going to be granular. It's going to come in very specific micro pockets, and it will have to be through automation and fueled by data and advanced analytics. The consumer landscape in APAC is actually quite instructive, and there are 3 or 4 trends that we are seeing that we think will actually cut across the globe pretty quickly. The first is that the flight to digital is permanent. Even in a country like China, where there was a very high digital penetration amongst the consumer base, we've seen through the pandemic, things stabilize at a much higher watermark than pre-pandemic. The second thing we are seeing in APAC is this massive shock to loyalty. More consumers have come into and tried different brands, different channels, and so the premium on creating loyalty through your consumer base is going to be even higher and tougher. Third is a big surge in O2O. We are seeing this gather some scale in Asia quite specifically, and we see it traveling west imminently. Fourth, early and green shoots in social commerce and community buying, a whole new other way of engaging consumers. And maybe lastly, a little bit more entrenchment of the trend we saw pre-pandemic, which is hard discount, the club channel, e-commerce and marketplaces will be the winners. Imagine if stores are actually an experience center and not just a physical location where transactions happen. Imagine a physical location where every store has a curated assortment, so micro-merchandising versus one size fits all. Think about technology enablement of customer service so you can delight the customer. So tech enabling services and customer service in a physical location versus just through human interaction. What could personalization in a physical location mean versus just having personalization online? How do you tap into workforce of the future? With the gig economy and omni-channel, do you really need full-time shifts? What should the different roles be in a physical location in this new world? And maybe lastly, could stores be an extra node from a fulfillment standpoint or a last delivery standpoint? So imagine a store that's a combination of being an experience center and a micro-fulfillment center at the same time. As we look forward, we think marketers will have 5 really important opportunities to galvanize around. First is multi-speed. You'll have to think about 1-hour cycles, monthly cycles, yearly cycles to live in a multi-speed environment. Second, really blending together in equal part analytics and creativity. This is not going to be a game of either or. You'll have to do both really well. The third is really putting purpose, the purpose of the brand and the retail establishment or organization at the center of everything that you do. This is not going to be enough to ask customers to buy your product. You'll have to give them a really compelling reason to go beyond the transaction. Fourth is integrator mindset. We really believe marketers will be at the epicenter of connecting the dots across multiple functions to serve the consumer holistically. And lastly, using data as the currency for full journey insights and analytics, closed loop measurements, first party data is going to be critical.